Hey guys, Arjafantes here, and today I want to bring you a really cool game. If we look at the advanced set here, we have Cluster Bolt, Venge Cannon, Aegis, Deadeye, Apollo, Blood Rager, Shadowfang, and Centurion. All these units are really high impact, and they can determine the course of games. In this particular replay, between me and my opponent, we actually use every single base set unit, every single advanced set unit except for one. As we'll get underway with the replay, we'll see there's a ton of like tech transitions, threats of going this but instead going that, mind games. It's just a really cool game. So we start out normally. I notice my opponent gets a third engineer. I opt not to because I have a feeling that he's trying to rush Apollo. If he does rush Apollo, my game plan is actually going to be to go for a Venge Cannon because Apollo can't snipe Venge Cannon, and I can kind of just overwhelm his defenses if he attempts to go for a super expensive unit like that. So I'm just amassing conduits. He gets a first Blast Forge. I get a Gauss Cannon here to force him to build a wall. It's debatable whether this is good or not, but I like to do it sometimes if I have the resources to spare. He goes for a conduit here, making me feel like maybe he's not going to go for Apollo anymore, but I built a third conduit anyways, just because there's so many good green options in this set. Worst comes to worst, the conduits can be used for Aegises and Cluster Bolts. And I'm not really doing too much right now, but neither is he. Okay, so here's the first huge commitment, I guess, of the game. At this point, yeah, I have a lot of green, but I'm not like committed to going for any particular high-tech unit, besides maybe like Venge Cannon or Cluster Bolt. My opponent here, though, gets a Blast Forge at Animus, and then 2 more conduits. The green's just really good in this set, which is why he added so many. But a second Blast Forge and an Animus signals very strongly that he's going to go for the Centurion. So, knowing that, I can't really Venge Cannon into Centurion. That's just suicide. Centurion will just soak up way too many Venge Cannon attacks, and his superior economy would be able to overwhelm me. So I decide to actually just build double Blast Forge Animus myself and transition into a Centurion of my own. So the game started really weirdly. He had like a Blast Forge and a conduit, and I had 3 conduits. But now we have the exact same tech. I just have a Gauss Cannon, and he has a wall, and of course an extra engineer. In fact, our drone counts are actually almost equal, despite the fact that he won 3 engineers. So he gets the Centurion. I get my Centurion. And he commits to a Deadeye here. So this game's gonna go pretty long because we both got Centurions, and it's gonna take a while to whittle through the defenses, especially with like Aegis in the set. So he wants to snipe my drones. That's his game plan going in. And Tarsiers are just efficient attackers that he can build to eventually overwhelm the Centurion. So my response to his Deadeye, though, is to go for a third Blast Forge, because now I want Apollos. Apollo is kind of like a hard counter to Deadeye, so I go for it. And I also build a Blood Rager here because I have exactly 3 attack with a Gauss Cannon. The Gauss Cannon actually came in handy, and the 3 attack would have just been wasted on a Centurion. So this is one of the situations where Blood Rager really shines. You get a really undercosted attacker at no cost, at no waste of attack for me. My opponent decides what to do. Decides to go for something pretty mild, I guess. Double Tarsier, always good. Gauss Cannon because he had the resources to afford it. I go for the Apollo. And at this point, he gets a Blood Rager because he doesn't want to waste the attack on the Centurion himself. So I immediately snipe the Deadeye. There's some arguments of like sniping Tarsier or something, but I'm able to defend with just an Aegis, so I think it's better to kill the thing that's killing my drones. So because I have an Apollo, I actually force my opponent into building Gauss Cannons. Gauss Cannons generally are really inefficient attackers because they cost 6 and a green, whereas like a Tarsier only costs 4 and a red. But he can't really build any more Blood Ragers or Tarsiers, otherwise I'm going to just slowly pick off his attackers. I'm building Gauss cannons myself just because I have so much attack, so much green. And I also have Blood Ragers from... My bad, let me go back. Yeah, on the turn I built the Aegis, I had, what, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly 6 attack, so I doubled up on the Blood Rager. Again, really good use, because I would have just only been able to kill an Engineer if I didn't get the Blood Ragers. Turn after that I sniped the Blood Rager, 2 Gauss cannons. And here, like, I could snipe walls, but I choose instead to just kind of pick away at his backline. My reasoning here is the Apollo applies a ton of pressure to him anyways on the front line, and by sniping his Tarsiers, I'm ensuring that I'm building up damage and he's not building up damage, which means in the long run I'll win. So here I also buy a Venge Cannon because I feel like I'm already ahead and I want to pressure him further so he completely crumbles. And I noticed that he has 11 attack after I snipe the Tarsier, which means I would have to lose an Aegis and an Engineer and soak 5 on the Centurion. But I actually don't want to lose the Engineer because it gives up a lot of granularity in my defense. Having 1 health defenders is really flexible, and not having them means your opponent can sometimes take advantage of your health and force you to lose more than you have to. So I actually just buy a Cluster Bolt. What this does is it gives him 13 attack, which means I can lose the Aegis and the wall and soak up the 5 on the Centurion. So yeah, I lose a more high cost unit, but I also apply 5 points of pressure to my opponent, which will make him lose way more than it'll cause me. So opponent decides to go for a Venge Cannon of his own. Not a bad choice. Gauss cannons are inefficient, but Venge cannons are actually very efficient if you don't count the drone costs. The drone cost, of course, will catch up to you unless you win the game. So at this point, I'm really far ahead, so I just go for double Venge. Even though I have less drones, having 4 extra points of attack is just going to apply immense pressure, especially with Apollo. So even though I have 19, I technically have 22, because he has to account for the 3 points of damage my Apollo will snipe. 3 points of defense, rather. But like, I just choose to snipe his Tarsiers because I can defend pretty easily this turn. If I didn't snipe the Tarsier, I would have to leave like 2 drones back or something. My opponent starts leaving drones back. And eventually I'm just able to overwhelm with my 22 attack and my Apollo, which applies a ton of pressure, as you see. I breach, wipe out most of his attack, and the game ends like that. So it's just a really cool game. There was a lot of back and forth, I'm going to threaten to do this, you're going to threaten to do that sort of thing, and I was able to respond to what my opponent did. First by realizing he was going Centurion and getting 1 of my own, and then realizing that he was going Deadeye and countering with Apollo. And also, Blood Rager made a huge impact this game because I was able to take 9 damage I would have otherwise wasted and put them into really cost-effective attackers. Even more cost-effective than Tarsier if you don't count the 3 attack it costs. So yeah, really cool game. Every unit was used except for Shadowfang. Shadowfang's another high-impact unit, but not this game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next week for another video. Bye now.